Hey guys, so if you haven't already done it, go ahead and subscribe to my page. You can go ahead and give it a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. I'm really trying to build a community here of people that are wanting to learn languages where we can share and kind of help each other out through the process of learning a language. So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe, like the page, and let's start talking. Let's start hashing it out. That's really all I'm looking for here, is to start some sort of community for like-minded people. Anyway, today's topic is something that's probably the most debated topic, or the most one that I'm approached with. Many people approach me about this topic. They ask me about it. They ask me my opinion about it. And I always kind of run through it, but I'd like to kind of condense that into a video. In the future, I'd like to make it a nice, video with some animations and things like that to give, a better setup for you guys. But for now, I'll just kind of give you the condensed version as I'm shooting in my bathroom, because it's the place that has the best acoustics in my apartment, and it's the only place with the little hooky things on the shower so that I can hang up my flags in the background so you don't have to look in my shower. Without further ado, let's get to talking about Duolingo. Is it good? Is it worth your time? Should you invest your time into Duolingo? And I'm going to go ahead and start out by giving the positives of Duolingo as I see them, and kind of letting you know what are the good aspects of it before I take it down. So one thing that Duolingo is great with is it's great on drilling. It'll take a couple of phrases and it will force you to repeat them over and over and over again. Now, more people have Duolingo than Rosetta Stone, and this is the same thing that Rosetta Stone does. And you'll spend, $200, $300 to do this. It's going to repeat "the boy drinks juice" to you 100,000 times until you are sure that you can fall asleep dreaming of "the boy drinks juice" in Romanian or something like that, okay? So it does great on repeating phrases and forcing you to repeat them. Both of those apps do that really well. Another thing that it does is it gives you a good progression, so you can kind of see the format of how your lessons are going to go, and it gives you a really good structure for it. And you can see, the ending is here, and I'm going to work towards this. And it gives you kind of a start and a finish to it, which is a pretty good feel and a pretty goal-oriented setup and design, which I think is pretty neat. And it leads you through your vocabulary and grammar like that in a progressive fashion, which I think is really good. Now, on to my critiques of it, because they're probably a lot more than my pluses. So long story short, do I think Duolingo is a great language learning resource? No, I don't think it is. Do I think it's better than nothing? Of course, absolutely. Do I think you're better served for making your own language plan? Absolutely. And do I think that I have better ideas on how you should structure your language plan? Yeah, I do. So I'm going to argue that right now. The first problem that I see that Duolingo has is a coverage problem. It only covers reading and writing. And before you jump on me, I know there's going to be people that say, no, it gives you a chance to speak and to listen. Very, very minimal. Sometimes it gives you practices where you'll hear the word, and without seeing it, you basically just type what you just heard, which is a good practice in theory, but the amount of times that it gives you to do that are quite small. The majority of the time, you are going to be practicing writing and reading. So just know that going into that. If you want to speak Japanese, you're not going to jump into there and really start on speaking practice that much. It's going to be heavily focused on reading and writing. I think they do that because that's the easiest thing to do with a bot. It's really hard to practice speaking practice with, a robot. Now, they do have bots that do that. Don't get me wrong, they do have that. But that's quite difficult because it will tell you to repeat a phrase. You'll repeat it sounding totally correct. And I know because I've done this with languages that I've known better, and I'll say the word into it, and the speech recognition software just isn't there yet, and it'll tell you you've gotten it wrong. a voice comes up and it's like a woman's voice, and you have to kind of mimic the way that she says it and say more like feminine, or a man's voice comes up, you have to say it in order for it to register that you actually got the word right. Sometimes I've purposely done this. You say the word completely wrong. They tell you like el gato, and you're like el pato, and it says you're correct on your speaking. And sometimes the word is el gato, and you say el gato, and it makes you repeat it 5 times, and you get it wrong, and it bumps you back lessons when you get wrong. And that's another critique that I have. So it punishes mistakes. And I don't think that's a good thing in language learning. I think punishing people when they make a mistake discourages them from trying. So they have this set up in Duolingo where the more mistakes you make, the more lessons you have to repeat in order to pass on. And it bars you from progressing because you made a mistake, and it could have been just a mistake and you know the answer from something that happened, a couple of weeks ago. If I didn't learn the word strawberry, and I make a mistake on it, it bars you from, moving on to learning kind of more relevant and more important words, which brings me to another issue that I have with it. It focuses way too much on very specific vocabulary, much like your high school Spanish class did. If it was anything like mine, they give you a giant page of every fruit you've ever heard of in the world, and chapter 3 is all on fruits. And so you learn how to say pomelo in Italian, and you learn how to say grapefruit in Japanese, but you don't know how to say hi, hello, how are you? That's a big issue. The fact that it goes way too specific onto vocabulary that is traditional. It's traditional. Having a chapter on fruit, having a chapter on, modes of transportation. Okay, that's fine, but I don't need to know how to say to parasail in Spanish. That's much less important than me knowing how to say to walk. So you need to rank these vocab a little bit better than Duolingo has them. And you're going to get really specific vocab, and this is my same critique that I give to Rosetta Stone. I did Korean Rosetta Stone. I can tell you how to say the boy drinks juice. The boy drinks juice very well in Korean. 남자애가 주스를 마셔요. That was like 5 years ago, and I still remember that. But do I know really how to say hi, hello, how are you? No, I don't. And that's failure of a program, in my opinion. Okay? You don't need to know the boy drinks juice before you know how to say hi, hello, how are you? And the ranking of those is way skewed on those apps. My next issue with it is grammar explanations or lack thereof. Many of you that have used it have commented to me that there are no explanations for the grammar principles that are being introduced. They're trying to teach you, for example, the directional a in Spanish. And they just give you example after example after example without really going into detail about why something is the way it is or how to understand it better. So there's no teaching involved. It's repetition. This is a huge issue that I have with language learning software, focusing less on teaching and more on repetition. These are kind of like your 10-minute Italian sort of things where they're just going to have you repeat something 1,000,000 times and you can never interact with the language. Then the language is no more a memorized, fixed little spot instead of something that you interact with. If I can only say one phrase over and over and over again, and I don't know, the point of grammar is to give you the tools to tweak the vocab that you know. If I learn how to say, horse, dog, cat, now grammar instruction should teach me how to take those nouns and apply them to meaningful conversation, like putting them in the past tense, putting them in, a conditional or something like that. And it should explain how you take those nouns and actions and put them into a real world context. And those apps don't give you that, especially Duolingo really does a poor job on explaining grammar. So that's a huge issue that I have with it. So those are my big issues. I'll sum it up again. There's too specific of vocab. It kicks you back lessons when you make a mistake, penalizing you for trying, for getting something wrong and putting yourself out there. There's really lack of grammatical explanations. There's canned, overused expressions that I'll be in chapter 20 and they're still telling me I have to repeat the boy drinks juice from chapter 1. Like, give me chapter 20. Like, I want to stop saying the boy drinks juice, please. It's a major focus on reading, writing that's detrimental to speaking and listening. And it has very little coverage in terms of a holistic approach to language. On the flip side, it is really good at drilling phrases in, and there is a good progression to the lessons. So if you take those good things about it, the progression of lessons and the drilling, you can create a better lesson for yourself. And I know that's the big thing is, well, I just like these canned lessons because there's something I can do in my spare time. The only caution that I would have with that is it makes you feel good, but are you learning? And if you can ask yourself that and you can totally say, you know what, I feel like I've gone from being totally beginner in Italian to like I can have a conversation with people and just using that app only, then that's great. And I'd like to talk with you and I'd like to figure out how to make that better. But if you're like me and you've found that it's fallen short on a lot of regards, don't just do it because it makes you feel like you're doing something. Like, I've prepared, and you'll see on the Facebook page, I've prepared some examples of how you can structure your language learning in a short amount of time to give it the best coverage over all the aspects of language so that you don't end up treating a language like a dead language only written and read instead of actually speaking, listening, vocab, all of that. So I really encourage you to go ahead and to share your thoughts and opinions about the app and about this video, and go ahead and let me know your thoughts. Let's have a good discussion and let's see how we can improve our language studies so that we can all learn better and so that we can all come out, being able to speak more, read more, write more, listen better, and be better with vocabulary. So best of luck in your language learning. Hope I didn't make anybody feel bad with that. Again, if it's between Duolingo and nothing, choose Duolingo. But if you really are, like many of you have asked me, wanting a better way to study, hit me up. Have a good one, guys. Bye.